I've talked at length before about sort of the ebb and flow of matches in World of Warships Legends, and I think this is an important concept to keep in mind while playing the game because it seems to me, and you can let me know whether you think my assessment is on the right track or not in the comments section, but it seems to me that the average player suffers from one of two problems when it comes to this game, and specifically knowing when or when not to push. Either the player will push in immediately at the start of the game and sink within the first 5 minutes. Doesn't really matter what class they're playing, it could be a destroyer, a cruiser, a battleship, happens all the time. Or else, maybe the player won't push in the first 5 minutes, but instead will stay in the back of the map for the entire game and never accomplish much while his teammates sink. And then, when enough of them have gone down to the bottom, maybe then he'll push in and then he himself will sink. This sort of seems to be how most people approach this. And I think the question is, well, how do you know when is the right time to push in? Because there is a right time to push in, and there's absolutely a wrong time to push in every match you play. So I've got a game for you in the Tier 8 Russian or Soviet cruiser Petropavlovsk, which I want to talk a little bit more about the cruiser itself because it's kind of an interesting outlier in this game. But anyway, if you want to know when you can and cannot push, I've got a fairly decent example. What you want to look for is both the position of the enemy team on the minimap and also the position of your own teammates. And often it comes down to, a matter of simple arithmetic. I'm not going to push into this Buffalo and this battleship here because there's two of them. Buffalo has fairly high DPM, Bismarck has 15-inch guns and secondaries, and we don't quite know yet because the game is too early if anything else is spotted here. We see one of the enemy destroyers near the Alpha Cap, but we don't know where the other one is. That means we've got this cruiser and this battleship and potentially a destroyer straight in front of us. So we don't want to push in right now, because if we do, we're going to start getting focused by the Bismarck, the cruiser, and potentially get torpedoed by an enemy destroyer, while we've only got one single destroyer teammate next to us inside of the Charlie Cap, who is smoked up and shooting at the Bismarck. Our battleships and other cruisers have all abandoned us. It's just the two of us, me and this DD here. So if I push in, the Bismarck and the Buffalo are going to be shooting at me because I'm the only thing they see. Destroyer smoked up, they can't see him, so they're not going to shoot at him. Therefore, I'm at a disadvantage, a numerical one. I've got two ships, potentially three, versus one. So if I push in, I'm going to lose all my HP for no reason. This is one of the things you want to look for. I see far too much, especially battleship players, pushing into superior enemy numbers. And it's like, why would you do that? If you can do simple math, you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 ships versus you as one ship. They've got nothing else to shoot at, so they're going to focus you. You're going to sink really quick. It's usually that simple of a matter. And that, of course, involves looking at your team as well. If, say, we had 2 or 3 battleships behind me that were also pushing in, then I'd turn my nose forward and go toward the Bismarck because I'd have, some assistance. We'd be focusing down the Bismarck. I've got radar on the Petro. If there is a destroyer around here, I'd be able to reveal him, and we might not have too much of a problem. But at the same time, there's no reason to push into this cap right now. Why? Well, because our destroyer has taken it. Nobody's contesting it. Bismarck is running away. Don't really know what happened to the Buffalo. I think he sank. And the destroyers have been spotted, and they're all pretty far away. So there's no reason yet to push in. But if we take a look at the map, we'll see a certain situation developing. At this point, the Bismarck is sailing away from the cap. The Buffalo, who I mistakenly thought was sunk, is also sailing away from the cap, and basically all of the Reds are headed toward Alpha. They're sailing away from this side of the map, and they're about to give up control of it. You can't really blame the Bismarck. He obviously can't push in. He's on very low health. And now the Buffalo is sunk for our first kill of the game, so really it's just the Bismarck over here. The rest of the enemy team is concentrated in the grid squares somewhere between Bravo and Alpha. They have no spread over the map, so therefore they have no map control. And now, based on where my team is, because you can see the vast majority of my team is sort of directly in front of the enemy, and they're just sort of sitting there stationary, trading shots at each other and not moving too much. So the Bismarck really is the only problem on this side of the map. He's got no HP. We should be able to actually eliminate him pretty quickly, and if we can, then we know we've guaranteed that this entire half of the map is clear of the Reds. And normally, what we wouldn't want to do is just push straight into the enemy's spawn 6 minutes into the game. That is usually a recipe for disaster because we can get crossfired from the other side of the map, not to mention the enemies that would be directly in front of us in the spawn. But if there are no enemies in the spawn, well, this might actually be an opportunity to push in, but we want to be careful about it, and we want to ensure we push in from an angle where we'll have access to the broadsides of the enemy ships, because the Petropavlovsk is sort of like a battleship in its hitting power. It's got large guns for a cruiser. I think they're 220 millimeters, and you can see they maintain excellent penetration even at long range. I mean, we're hitting this Bismarck at what, 16 kilometers, and we're still doing 9k damage to his broadside. It's not like a big knockout hit that you would get from a battleship, but it's a powerful amount of damage for a cruiser. And the guns, they reload much more quickly than a typical battleship, so we can apply that damage much more often. The Bismarck, in any case, is in a retreat, and we're going to now be able to push into the Alpha Cap. We've got our eyes on the Iowa, who has one side to an island and is creeping forward toward our team. And then we will probably have the broadsides of other ships aside from the Iowa. But that's what Petropavlovsk really wants. It wants the broadsides of battleships and cruisers, ideally at closer range, because it can punch through and do ridiculous damage to their citadels. Now, Iowa is hiding his nose once more behind the island, and Petro's shell arcs are just too flat to lob over it. So we're going to have to continue pushing in to get some work done, and we will. Taking a shot there at the Giuseppe Verde, or however you pronounce that ship's name. Results aren't great. Still got to keep the Bismarck in mind because he's alive. He hasn't spotted us yet. But you can see now we're pushing in toward the enemy spawn. In fact, we're almost inside of the enemy spawn, and we're on the broadsides of this entire team. This is a good example of knowing when you can push in, and all you have to do is look at the position of the enemy team and the position of my team. They're fighting each other sort of face on, and nobody is taking advantage of the enemy team's open broadside because they've given up control of half of the entire map. So I'm the only one really in a position to do it, just needed to take out that Bismarck, and we finally do. And so now our way is clear. We can push in quite aggressively. And you can see that, at least in terms of ship count, this battle is fairly even. It's 5 versus 5 right now. And so we can be the ship that sort of turns the tide by doing a well-timed, safe push where we can guarantee that we're only going to be fighting ships sort of 1v1, and we're going to have their broadsides. They're going to be cross-fired because we've got battleships directly in front of them still shooting at them, and they're bow-tanking those battleships. And they're doing it in the way that most people do it, which is where you sit still, maybe you reverse a little bit, you've got an island near yourself, but what you do is you completely compromise your maneuverability. Oftentimes, when you get focused down, you need to turn away. And you really can't do that if you're stuck bow in sitting still. Your only choice is to continue reversing or to make a full gamer turn while everybody in front of you is still shooting at you, and thereby expose your broadside and probably take a lot of damage. And of course, looking at the map to note the positions of things like hippers can yield you some good damage. Always good to keep your head on a swivel and keep your eyes on the map, because you may find that you're able to take out a ship that's broadside further away. Iowa goes down because our destroyer teammate has realized that he too has the opportunity to push in, and his torpedoes are sort of like my guns in that they can punish broadsides of reversing bow-taking battleships like they did that Iowa. Kutuzov is down. And now that just leaves the Giuseppe Verdi and this Kagero, who for some reason has come around the corner and is spotted by me and instantly taken out. So it's just Giuseppe left. And at this point, we can probably do a little bit of brawling in the Petropavlovsk, which I don't know why more people aren't talking about this ship or using it. I think it maybe is a little bit harder to use. On PC, of course, it's known as an overpowered monstrosity, but there it's a tier 10 ship with something like 60,000 HP. They've nerfed the HP pool in this game, but the armor and the gun performance is the exact same as it is on PC, so this is still quite the tanky little menace. You just have to be a little bit more cautious and more mindful of your lower HP pool, and that does involve looking at the minimap and determining when is the good time to push in when you won't be focused. And so we got sort of lucky in this game with the enemy team not positioning very well, but you'll see that in a lot of games you play. Most people don't think about positioning in this game, even though it really is what is going to determine your success or failure. And in any case, now that we're alone against the Giuseppe, you see how fast he goes down. We're able to do some good damage to his broadside, and we finish the game with 140,000 damage done, which isn't numbers that are blowing anything out of the water, but over 2,000 base XP in the top of the leaderboard. And we did it, just by searching the minimap, noting the position of the reds and the blues, and pushing when the opportunity presented itself. So these are things to think about while you're playing the game. Hopefully you find them helpful. If so, give the video a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.